Welcome back to Business Today. I'm Anthony Kovic. We got William Crowley. Who's William Crowley? We're going to be talking about credit restoration. And William, we all need credit restoration. Tell us, what are we dealing with here?
I think a lot of people like to refer to it as credit repair. And I like to make it sound a little bit more friendly by using the term credit restoration, because credit repair is somebody in some box across the country is doing your credit repair and you have no idea what's going on. With credit restoration, it's more of a friendly touch, and you actually are there tutoring the client, coaching them right along, explaining them everything that's going on with the credit restoration service. So in other words, which we're going to be talking about later on, is some of the laws that protect people. Well, most people aren't familiar with the laws that protect them. Most consumers think that they don't have any rights, and they have a numerous amount of rights. And what credit restoration assistance does is not only help the client to understand the process, but we do it for them at the same time.
Now, what is the FCRA?
That's one of the laws that I was just mentioning. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, that's the acronym. Now, I don't want to bore everybody with all the details and the historical significance of it, but I think it's important for people to understand that the Fair Credit Reporting Act are the consumer rights that protect us as consumers against, and I want to say against the abuses of the credit reporting agencies and corporate America in general. Fair Credit Reporting Act was created by Congress in 1970, shortly after the first credit reporting agency was formed. You know which credit reporting agency that was?
No.
That was TRW, which is now Experian. They were formed in 1969. Congress saw that the credit reporting agencies were wielding a lot of power. Credit reporting agencies gather information on every consumer in the country with a Social Security number. Anytime they transact business, that's documented. So it's very important that information is documented correctly, and which it's not. So the Fair Credit Reporting Act was created in 1970, about a year after the first credit reporting agency was formed. And what that does now is it's kind of like it polices the credit reporting agencies, because credit reporting agencies are just private companies. They're out there to make a buck. So what we're going to want to do is monitor them, and through the Fair Credit Reporting Act, that's how we do it. We monitor them.
Now, what is the 1681I of the FCRA?
There's over, if people want to look at the Fair Credit Reporting Act, you can go to ftc.gov. That's franktomcharlie.gov, and that's where you can see all of the laws in the Fair Credit Reporting Act. 1681I is probably one of the most important ones, because when a dispute is placed with the credit reporting agency, the credit reporting agency has 30 business days to respond. 30 business days. If they go beyond that, then the consumer that's in our program or in any credit restoration program across the country should start jumping for joy, because that means that the credit reporting agency now has to delete that information because they violated the laws of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Specifically, 1681 is a statute of limitations which gives the credit reporting agencies 30 days to respond to a dispute.
So, can the consumer actually, argue or sue the credit reporting agency for damages for any content that was placed in their report that is malicious or or false?
I strongly encourage that everyone, when they come to me for credit restoration, I strongly encourage that they do go back and sue. Once information has been deleted from a credit report, the credit reporting agency is actually admitting guilt. Okay, so the information on there, whether it belongs to the customer or not, and that's where a lot of people fall victim to, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, for the ignorance of our rights. Just because you have a repossession, a tax lien, a judgment, any negative item on your credit report, it doesn't mean that the credit reporting agencies have the right to put it on there. It does mean more than likely that it's yours. You know it, and the lender knows it, but the credit reporting agency is a third party. So when they take this information and put it on your credit report, they've actually violated the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And so when they remove it, they're admitting guilt, and you can sue them for up to $5,000 per deleted item. You can sue the credit reporting agency for $2,500 and the one who supplied them with that information for $2,500. So a total of $5,000. And if you multiply that, you have 3 credit reports, and most of the time, each credit report, the information is reporting on all 3. Okay, so if that's approximately 5 times 3, 1,500 that you can sue for one negative entry on your credit report. But remember, we're going after every negative entry on the credit report, from an inquiry to a tax lien, from a repossession to a judgment. We're going after this information. We're successfully having a lot of this information removed, and the customer is right there. The customer has all the evidence they need to go to small claims court to sue the credit reporting agency for defamation of character, libel, and numerous other charges. So I strongly encourage that people sue the credit reporting agency and get some money.
Now, when it comes to On what grounds other than, if they've taken off, if they placed something on your report, that you can sue them? Are those the only grounds?
That's the only grounds as it pertains to the credit reporting agencies. Because here's the procedure. When the credit reporting agency receives information on a consumer, they're third party, and people need to understand third party intervention laws. When the credit reporting agency receives this information, they have to verify it. They're not verifying anything. For instance, let's say you have a repo, not to use an example, yeah. But let's say you have a repossession. You and the lender, which is a private contract, know that repo exists. In order for that contract to become legally public, and that means the credit reporting agency to put it on your credit report and publicize it to the world, there are about 26 steps that the credit reporting agency has to follow before they can report that repossession.
So 26 steps?
26 steps. And it may be more now. It's always being constantly amended.
Now, what do people normally know about their credit and their report? Sometimes, because if you file, if you subscribe to one of the services where, every time an organization inquires at a credit agency, it shows up. Now, do they have a right to inquire? Does anyone have a right to inquire about your credit report?
Yes. There's two types of inquiries, okay? There's what you call a soft and a hard inquiry. The soft inquiry means that means a company is just looking at you. It's not going to damage your credit at all. The hard inquiry is what the consumer initiates, and you can lose anywhere from 2 to 10 points per inquiry per pull. So I tell people, just to really put a scare in them sometimes, don't pull your credit while you're in our process, because you can lose up to 30 points. So the maximum amount is 30 points. You may not lose up to 30 points, but anywhere from 2 to 10 points per inquiry per pull. Stay away from that. Now let me just explain a little bit further on that, okay? Inquiries, when a person out there just pulling their credit, they should, what inquiries are doing, and I'm glad that the credit reporting agencies have implemented this process, because it should slow down consumers to say, don't just go out and pull your credit, okay? If you get turned down by one lender, stop. Because most of the lenders judge you on the same guidelines. So if you go to one and they turn you down, then more likely you're going to go to another and they're going to turn you down, and so on and so on and so on, unless you go to an extremely different type of lender. You go from a primary lender to a subprime. But if you have to do that, then you definitely should be seeking the service of credit restoration. But with that, they're penalizing you. They're saying, hey, why are you out here doing your credit when you know it's bad? You need to do something to change those circumstances before you continue pulling your credit. And Allah, here we are. We're here to help those clients. Once you get turned down at the first time, then you should get a copy of your credit report, free that is, from the credit reporting agencies. And then you can view it yourself and make a determination, okay, I have negative items on my credit report. I need to address this situation before I continue looking for a loan. If I'm going to continue to look for a loan, it's going to be quite expensive. Okay, so it's good that they penalize people for it, even though they're doing it in an illegal fashion, but it will at least prevent the consumer or slow the consumer down from accumulating so many inquiries. I get a lot of people with tons of inquiries on their credit report. That shows me that they know nothing about the industry, especially the financial industry, how it directly relates to them.
Now, so when you say inquiry, that's an inquiry. How often can, let's say, an organization, let's say you sign up for a credit card or whatever, how often can they check your inquiry on your credit as an agency or as a company?
They can check, well, on a hard inquiry, which affects the consumer, as many times as the consumer applies, then as many times they can be penalized. So remember, 2 to 10 points per inquiry per pull. You could go to Sears in one mall, fill out an application, get turned down, then go to Sears at another mall, fill out another application, get turned down, and you're getting penalized both times.